the Jefferson curl. Now, we need to understand there are certain movements where we want the spine to be super static, like a rock, and there should be zero movement. The Jefferson curl, on the other hand, is the opposite of that. We're looking for worst deadlift in the world type of movement through the spine, but very controlled. And we're gonna go ahead and teach you how to make sure we can be durable in this movement, then to be able to maybe go a little try hard on it, because this is something that can lengthen your posterior chain, which is important, loosen up your neck, loosen up your back, your hamstrings, and also if you can be strong in a curl position like Amy is doing, and in a long position, eventually, you can get your hands past your toes, then it means you're more likely to be strong and robust when you're resisting your spine wanting to flex, right? So with that, let's dump into the actual move. So we're actually gonna go ahead and have Amy face this way so you can see a little bit better. And we're gonna think about tucking the chin hard, and then we're keeping this chin tucked for the entirety of the movement, because that's gonna start to lengthen your erectors all the way from the base of your head all the way down to the base of your hips, and then keep on going the posterior chain down. And we're gonna think one vertebrae at a time as I'm tapping. This is where she's thinking about rounding, and we're gonna keep on going. We're mid-back, then we're thinking low back, then eventually we get to the hip, to where if we can, we're finding ourselves as low as we can. Now, we want the knees to be as long as possible, but if you need to bend them a little bit to be able to get your fingers just to your toes, feel free to. But once you get there, feel free to try to push your knees back a little bit to find extra length through that posterior chain. You might even feel it down here towards the heel. Now, then she's gonna think about one vertebrae at a time, coming up in the low back. These things are flattening out. Then we're gonna think mid-back, and then we're gonna think upper back, and then we're gonna think that neck, that cervical spine, and then we're gonna think the top of the head. And now we're nice and tall again. Now, this is the biggest thing. We want to make sure we're nice and controlled. So think about 5 to 10 seconds on the way down, 5 to 10 seconds on the way up. We're looking for control, and you're trying to take that long period of time to make sure you're progressively, slowly, in a safe way, bringing your spine through flexion, that means rounding it, but also trying to connect mind and body, right? Like when you're rounding your low back, can you feel yourself actually rounding your low back? When you're rounding your mid back, your upper back, whatever it is, or is there a dead spot there? And that's your time to try to really focus and move and try to connect that mind to that specific portion that you feel like you're not in tune with. And it takes time, and you really have to think about it, and you always have to command it. Sometimes you even have to audibly say it, right? Guys, it's important to visualize and then also speak sometimes items when you're having a hard time doing it. Now, those are the durability tips and the basics of it. Now, if we think about trying to do try hard, once you can easily tuck the chin and you're going up and down and you're no longer using this as a basic stretch, and you can get your knuckles, I would say, to the ground, then feel free to weight this a little bit. And this is just going to put a little bit of extra load, so you have to resist and control against it. You're not speeding up the movement. You're not looking to do more reps, and I would say somewhere between like 3 to 5 if you're warming up, maybe somewhere 5 to 10 if you're looking to try to make this a little bit more of a strength movement. You're just kind of moving through it. As you can see, nothing's changed. We're just adding load. Now, if this is really easy and you're like, cool, I'm able to control it really well, what you can do is place a dumbbell down or a stair step, whatever, and you can pull those toes up. And what that's gonna do is force your posterior chain to lengthen even more. And you're gonna go ahead and simply find a little bit more of an intense session. Then from there, if that's easy, cool, find yourself on top of a box, or keep on raising yourself, and then you're progressively gonna try to find that weight, that dumbbell, to try to get to the new floor, right? So if coach was standing on that, right, and then she was trying to go down, she would be trying to go ahead and raise and get herself to the floor there. So we're really going ahead and forcing the body to stretch and get even lower and going through a longer range of motion. Those are the durability and try hard tips for the Jefferson curl.